Hi. Before I begin, I want to give my usual housekeeping reminders. Also, I still have the remnants of my cold from pneumonia. So I'm probably a little nasally or congested, but I pray you get the gist. Before I begin, I want to give my usual housekeeping reminders that this podcast is for reflection, conversation, awareness, encouragement, and healing. It's not therapy. It is not counseling. It is not diagnosis. And it is not emergency support. I'm sharing from my lived experience, from my own healing journey, and from the things that have been placed on my heart. Some topics may be heavy, especially for anyone who has experienced DV, trauma, abuse, fear, or emotional pain. If anything I say feels too close to home or begins to feel overwhelming, please pause, take a breath, step away, and take care of yourself. If you are in immediate danger, please call 911 or your local emergency number. If you are in crisis, experiencing abuse, or having thoughts of harming yourself, please reach out to Crisis Line, Domestic Violence Hotline, shelter, trusted person, counselor, or local emergency resource. Please listen with care, take what helps you, and leave what does not. Today, I want to talk about what happens after survival. In the last episode, have you ever been there? I shared a part of my story. I talked about being in a place that was supposed to feel like home, but instead it felt unsafe. I talked about the night I had to run, the night I had to make decisions no woman, no mother, no person should ever have to make. But today I want to talk about what happens after that, because survival is not always the end of the story. Sometimes survival is just the beginning of what comes after. Survival is what happens when you make it through the thing that was supposed to break you. But healing is what happens afterward, when your body may finally be safe, but your mind is still trying to understand what happened. And I want to be honest, at that time, I do not even know if I would have used the word survived. I don't know if I felt like I survived. I just knew I made it. I made it from that particular situation. I made it from that particular marriage. I made it from that particular captivity. I made it out with my daughter. I made it to my mother's house. And because I was no longer in that house, because I was no longer standing in front of the person who had hurt me, I thought I was safe. But survival can be tricky. Survival can make you think that because the immediate danger is gone, that everything is okay now. Survival can fool you into believing that making it out means you are healed. But I had not healed. I had wounds I did not fully understand yet. I knew I had wounds, but I did not know what all of them were. And some of the wounds I did not know about. I had no idea how to fix them. So even though I had made it out, I was still on rinse and repeat in some areas of my life. I was away from him, but I was still carrying fear. I was away from the violence, but I was still carrying the sound of it. I was away from the chaos, but my body still knew what chaos felt like. I was no longer physically in that marriage, but parts of me were still trying to survive it. And that is something people do not always understand. Just because you made it out does not mean everything left you. You can leave the house, you can leave the relationship, you can leave the chaos, you can leave the person who hurt you and still carry the sound of their voice. You can still carry the fear of their anger, still carry the memory of their hands, still carry the shame of what you tolerated, still carry the grief of who you were before it happened. Those are the wounds people cannot always see. They're not always bruises. They're not they're not always scars. They're not always marks that someone else can point to and say, there it is. That is where she was hurt. Some wounds live in the way I pause before I trust. Some wounds live in the way I overthink a person's tone or their silence or the way they walk in a room. Some wounds live in my body before my mind even has time to explain why I feel uneasy. Some wounds made me strong, but they also made me guarded. Some wounds taught me how to survive, but they also taught me how to expect danger. Even when danger is no longer standing in front of me. That is the part people do not always understand about survival. You can be out and still feel trapped. You can be safe and still feel scared. You can be free and still not know how to live free yet. For me, after I made it out, I started thinking about so much. I thought about my childhood. I thought about my mother, my father, my family, and the dysfunction that existed behind closed doors. I thought about my husband and his family. I thought about the lack of protection. I thought about people I thought were connected to me, but really they were more connected to him. I thought about associates who were not really my friends because when things got real, I had to see who was really safe. And I was thankful for the people God placed in my life. I think about the police officer who became a friend to me. I wish I remembered his name. I wish I could say it out loud and thank him properly. But I know this: God used him in my life. He helped me. He protected me in a season where protection mattered. And in some ways, I believe he helped save me. When I made it back to Texas, it was the longest time I had stayed away. I remember that feeling. I had made it back. I had my daughter. I was at my mother's house. I thought I was safe. And in one way, I was safer than I had been. But in another way, I was still wounded. Because distance can remove you from danger, but distance alone does not heal the damage. A new location does not automatically repair old wounds. A different state does not automatically silence old fear. Leaving the person does not automatically remove what the person did to you. And I had to learn that. I was carrying wounds from fear, wounds from silence, wounds from staying too long, wounds from having to act normal when nothing about my life felt normal, wounds from the things I survived, but I also carried proof that I made it through. And maybe that is part of healing. Learning how to honor the wound without letting the wound become your whole identity. Because, yes, I was hurt. Yes, I was afraid. Yes, I was damaged in places. Yes, I had things to work through. But I was also still here. I was still breathing. I was still standing. I was still a mother. I was still a woman. I was still a child of God. I was still worthy of peace. I was still worthy of healing. And that brings me to something I cannot leave out: the role God played in my survival, not just in my life, but in my survival, because there were moments when I did not have the strength. There were moments when I did not have the words. There were moments when I did not have the plan. There were moments when I did not have the courage. There were moments when I didn't even know how I was going to make it from one day to the next, but somehow I kept breathing. Somehow I kept moving. Somehow I kept getting up. And I know that was God. God did not make the pain happen. God did not cause the abuse. God did not want me broken, afraid, silenced, or living in survival mode. But I believe God was with me in the middle of it. He was there when I was scared. He was there when I was silent. He was there when I was confused. He was there when I did not know how to leave. He was there when I did not know what would happen next. He was there when I did not know if I even had enough strength left to choose myself. And I also have to tell the truth about this. There were signs I ignored. There were red flags I explained away. There were moments when I believed God was trying to show me the truth, but I was not ready to see it. I was too afraid to act on it, and that is real. Sometimes God can be speaking and we're still standing in fear. Sometimes God can be opening a door and we're still holding on to the thing that is destroying us. Sometimes God can be trying to show us that something is not love, but our wounds, our hope, our fear, our desire to keep the family together keeps us from moving. But even then, God did not leave me. He kept me. He covered me. He gave me one more breath, one more chance, one more moment to see clearly. When I finally made it out, I understood that survival was not just my strength, it was grace, it was mercy, it was God keeping me when I did not know how to keep myself. And now, as I heal, I still need God. I needed Him to survive, but I also need Him to heal. I need Him to heal the wounds I still carry. I need Him to help me forgive myself. I need Him to quiet the shame. I need Him to restore the parts of me that fear tried to steal. I need Him to teach my nervous system that peace is safe. I need Him to help me trust again, to breathe again, to live again. So when I talk about what happens after survival, I cannot talk about it without talking about God, because God was not just present when I got out. God is present while I am healing. Again, God did not cause what happened to me, but I believe He carried me through what should have broken me. My survival was God keeping me alive. Healing is God teaching me how to live again. And maybe that is the message today. Survival got me out. Healing is teaching me how to live without letting those wounds control every part of me. Survival gave me breath. Healing is teaching me how to breathe without fear. Survival moved my body out of danger. And healing is teaching my mind, my heart, and my spirit that peace is not a setup. Peace is not suspicious. Peace is not something I have to run from. Peace can be safe, peace can be real, and peace can belong to me. So if you're listening today and you have survived something, but you still do not feel okay, I want you to know you're not alone. If you made it out physically, but emotionally, you are still trying to understand what happened, you're not alone. If people expected you to be fine because the danger passed, but you were still shaking inside, you are not alone. If you are still learning how to trust yourself, forgive yourself, and live without expecting the next bad thing to happen, you are not alone. And please hear me when I say this. Healing takes time. Healing takes honesty. Healing takes grace. Healing takes God. Healing takes moments of being still, listening, and trusting that the same God who carried you through survival can also guide you through healing. So, what happens after survival? For me, what happens after survival is learning to be still, learning to listen to God, learning to trust, learning to protect my peace, learning to speak my truth, learning to continue to heal, and learning that although I carry wounds, I also carry proof that I made it through. Protect your peace, tell your truth, and continue to heal, guided by God's light.